let's just make sure we make it this time, like, to keep our relationship healthy. To point opportunity. You're not going to have to fill out a form or anything, because I know you can, and it's just two of you, so it's not that hard to keep track of it. So, it's actually conclude. And since I am here,
I just don't think that's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. It is my great honor to introduce our speaker for this afternoon, Dr. David Fakunle. Dr. Fakunle is assistant professor at the Morgan State University School of Communication and Health Policy. He earned his PhD from the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, where he is currently also associate faculty in the mental health department. He also serves as adjunct faculty here at the University of Florida in the Center for Arts in Medicine. His research interests include socio-demographic relationships with stressors within the built environment, the manifestations of institutional racism in society, and the use of arts and culture to promote equity and liberation. He has applied artistic and cultural practices, such as Black storytelling, African drumming, singing, and theater, in the proclamation of his truth for over 20 years, collaborating primarily with organizations in the Baltimore, Washington, D.C. area. He has performed with companies such as the Sankofa Dance Theater, the Washington Rebels, Jubilee Voices, and Moonwork Productions, among others. He is co-founder and CEO of Discover Me, Recover Me, an organization that utilizes the African oral tradition to empower the use of narrative for healing and growth. And he has served as chair of the Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission. On behalf of Beyond120 and the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, with additional support from the Center for Humanities in the Public Sphere, please help me welcome Dr. David Fakunle.
How y'all doing?
Good.
Make sure I can be heard. Cool. It's kind of interesting sitting in the audience, having somebody tell the story of your own life, right? I don't know, it almost feels like a funeral or something. Damn, okay, that's a lot. I feel like I got a lot more to do. It's great to see all these faces. It's a Wednesday afternoon, and y'all chose to come here, right? Y'all better than me. Y'all better than me. It's an honor to be here. This is only the third time I've been in Gainesville since being at the University of Florida, so it's cool to check out this space, a space that I guess technically I belong in, but still a feeling of detachment. I really got to clap it up. I really do. I do. One thing that's been so interesting to observe is, I would say, the mental maturity that future generations have compared to me. I kid you not, unless I was forced to come to something like this, I probably would not have come. That's just not where my mind was at that point in my life. So for you all to choose of your own accord to be in this space, acknowledging that there's something valuable that you might learn in a little bit of time that we have, I truly am grateful. I don't know how many of your teachers actually thank you for being students, but I thank you for learning. I really, really do. So let's get started. I think I got something to share. Hopefully it resonates. So let's break the ice. Y'all don't know me, I don't know y'all. So let's connect with this question. If you could have one superpower out of the many multiverses that exist in our world, which one would you choose and why? So you see my answer. Nightcrawler, ability of teleportation. Because if I had the chance to go back to my undergraduate years, and if I had this ability, do you know how much fun I would have had? I would probably not have a PhD. I would probably be in prison. I still want this superpower because it's just much more practical. I don't have to worry about airlines. I don't have to worry about airports. I don't have to deal with TSA. I don't have to worry about train stations. I can just go where I want to go, come back. This party sucks. Gotta use the bathroom. Don't want to do it anywhere else but home. So, who wants to answer that question? Okay, I saw that answer. Okay, too, man. Go for it.
Teleportation's usually my first pick, but I think you already chose that, so I'll do time travel.
Why time travel?
Because then you could see like the past and the future, and there's so much to learn from being able to get those like first-hand experiences throughout history. And as someone who's interested in history, like just being able to like be there and kind of figure things out and learn by myself firsthand is cool.
Now here's what I'm curious about. Would you truly just observe?
Sometimes.
Or would you interact?
I feel like, how would you resist the temptation to interact?
Yeah, I appreciate your honesty. That's all. That's all I'm looking for. If I had time, I'm messing with stuff. I am. I'm messing. How many movies have come out with that same premise? It's based on some level of truth, right? Because that's what we would do. Oh, if you could stop this, would you? Yes. So yes, time travel, and I understand why on both levels. All right, someone else. Yes, sir.
Yes, the ability to break or create energy, meaning that I can create food and just destroy food insecurity.
Oh, that's so altruistic. That's so. I love that. I love that. I love that. All right, give me another one. Yes.
The power of the mind. I want to control people or things.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth. That's the whole premise of this. Yeah. Go ahead. Oh, yeah.
I don't like very flashy powers because that usually gets the attention of many powerful individuals, which I do not want looking at me. So I would choose the power to be very fortunate because you don't know how much effect waking up on the right side of bed without feeling like you just had like the worst night's sleep of your life. You don't know how much that affects your daily goings and like finding a penny on the floor. Or
I'm gonna push back on that because yes, I do understand. All right, physically I understand. I've woken up on the wrong side of bed quite a few times, and you know where it hits you the most? The neck. Yeah. So everybody, do this real quick. You're looking forward. Turn to your left. That was my right. Turn to your left. Let's do this again. I'm smart. Turn to your left. Turn to your right. Imagine that hurting for every degree you turn to either side. That's what waking up on the back side of the bed does to you. And you have to deal with that at least 3 days. How many people drive? Show of hands. Yeah, good luck driving with a bad neck. Oh, you want to see what? Right. You don't know how much you need something until it stops working properly. All right, one more. Could we be here all day? Yes.
Talk to animals.
Why talk to animals?
I don't know, I think like communication can be like a powerful thing, and I think like not only that, like animals tell a lot about like the environment and like can tell us things we might not know but need to know. So.
Do you really want to hear what animals got to say about us? Do you know? They would talk so much. I'm not gonna say it, but talk so much crap, and I'm sure they do in their own way. They just talk so much crap about what we've done. So I understand the importance of having that language. I don't know if I want that responsibility because that'd be a lot. So thank you for those who shared. Thank you for those who thought about the idea. This exercise is something that we do all the time. We hear icebreakers, right? It's about establishing communication and connection. Connection is going to be one of those things that comes up quite often, and I'm not saying you got to take notes. Just listen. I don't even want you to take notes. Just listen. If there's anything that you see on these slides, I'll gladly give it to you. Jacob, you heard that from me.
Yeah.
Okay? So don't worry about it. I just want you to consider the idea. Okay? So in order to make my argument, now I feel like I'm in court. Let me set the scene. And here's how I want to set the scene. I'm going to tell you a story. There was once an elder woman, and every day this elder woman would walk through the forest. It was her sanctuary. It was her refuge. It was where she felt closest to the divine. And so she did it every single day like clockwork. On this particular pilgrimage, she came across a stone. Now, as an elder woman, you can imagine she's seen a lot of stones in her lifetime, right? There's big stones, there's small stones, there's round stones, there's jagged stones, there's smooth stones, there's shiny stones, there's dull stones. She's seen them all. So she knew there was something special about this one. So what did she do? She picked it up, she put it in her pouch, and she kept walking. As she was continuing on her pilgrimage, she came across a young man. And as this young man was getting closer to the elder woman, she could see with her own eyes that this young man had been through some things. He looked tired. He looked hungry. He looked thirsty. He looked like he had been in a fight or two. Anything that life was giving this young man, as the young people say, he was taking L's every single time. Every single time. When the young man finally approached the elder woman, he begged her, "Ma'am, do you have anything that I can eat? Do you have anything that I can drink? Do you have a place where I can lay my head? Can you tend to my wounds? Can you help me?" And after a while, that young man saw that stone in the elder woman's pouch. And when he saw that stone, he was no longer thinking about his hunger. He was no longer thinking about his thirst. He was no longer thinking about his tiredness. He was no longer thinking about his pain. There was only one thing on his mind. And so he asked, "Ma'am, may I have that stone that's in your pouch?" Without any hesitation, as if she didn't take a single thought at the request, she went into her pouch. She took out the stone. She gave it to the young man. And then she kept walking. And she never said a word to him. So the young man is going in one direction and the elder woman is going in the opposite direction. And the young man is holding this stone in his hands. He's not even looking up where he's walking. And he's thinking to himself, this stone makes sure that I'm never thirsty again. This stone makes sure that I'm never hungry again. This stone makes sure that I'm never tired again. This stone makes sure that no one ever lays a finger on me. This stone makes sure that anything that I've ever wanted, ever dreamed of, ever desired, I will get it. And after a while, the young man stopped right in his tracks, and he actually looked up and saw where he was. It was as if he was reminded in that moment that he was in the forest. He saw it. He smelled it. He heard it. He felt it. He even tasted it. And after a while, the young man caught up with the elder woman who was still walking, and when he did, this is what he said to her. "I want to give this stone back to you because I want whatever it is inside of you that allowed you to give me this stone so freely." I am the product of many people who gave their precious stones to me. It starts with my parents. It includes my sister, who I consider the smarter one of us two. It includes my wife, who puts up with me way more than she should. I can be honest about myself. My son, who I put up with way more than I should. It includes the many people who introduced me to what it means to embrace the culture of the African diasporas, the son of a Nigerian immigrant, and found my path to the continent another way, through drumming, through storytelling, and, by the way, Hopkins trained researcher. I say all that to say that these photos really kind of capture the tapestry of who I am. You may see the nice headshot that I did like 5-6 years ago. You may see the letters behind my name. You may see my CV. I'm sure it's floating around the internet somewhere. You may see videos of me doing the exact same thing that I'm doing right now. You may see articles about what I've accomplished. That's what matters. They do. They always will. I may not always be the best at communicating that with them. I may not always be the best at exuding it when I should. I don't care what else you may know me for. They matter to me. That's part of my story. And I'm sure if I had the time to listen to every single one of your stories, people would show up. Somebody would show up. Don't have to be related by blood. You can be related by circumstance. You can be related by culture. You can be related by humanity. Let's stick with that one. But started somewhere. Started somewhere. I will never be too pretentious to forget the path that I've taken. I may be a curmudgeon when I want to be a curmudgeon when it comes to social media and people being on their phones 24/7. And yes, I'm a hypocrite because I'm on my phone 24/7. It's different when I do it. I'm glad you all take the pictures. I'm glad you all take the videos. Because there's going to come a point where you forgot that thing happened. And you're going to stumble upon the terabytes and terabytes of data you all have. And you're going to see stuff like this. And if you didn't take the picture, and if you didn't take the video, you would not believe it was you. I can promise you. I see these photos of my friends, family, the random stuff that I did when I was undergrad at the University of Maryland College Park. Go Terps. That if I did not have these pictures, I would not believe it was me. Storytelling. You can't forget the totality of your journey. Why would you want to? And I know it has its ups and downs. Trust me, there's a lot of things happening in those 4 years that I was on that campus. A lot of journeys that I had to navigate. Some with friends, some with family, quite a few of them alone. That's the process. There'll come a point where you appreciate every single lesson you've learned while you've been on this campus. One way or another. You may not appreciate it in the moment. There was a reason you had to learn that lesson. There's a reason you had to learn it here. There's a reason you had to learn it at this time, as opposed to 10 years from now. Too late to learn some lessons at that point. So I think about how my story intersects with so many people and the different symbols that are meaningful to me, and this one is also very meaningful. Anybody familiar with the story of the yellow ribbon? Show of hands. Nobody? Oh, and then I gotta tell it. All right, here we go. Now y'all gonna know the story of the yellow ribbon. John and Mary were the best of friends. They did everything together. They went to school together. They had lunch together. They were on the playground together. They were over each other's houses all the time. They were inseparable. One thing that John started to notice about Mary is that she used to wear this yellow ribbon around her neck all the time. And one day John just asked, like, hey, Mary, what's up with the yellow ribbon around your neck? And Mary just played it off. It's like, it's no big deal. I'll tell you some other time. And time passed. Elementary school, middle school, high school. Yes, they went to the same college together. They eventually became more than friends. They fell in love. They get their degrees. Get y'all degrees. They got married. Had this beautiful wedding. No bridezillas, no groomzillas. Families actually tolerated each other. It was beautiful. Everything they could have possibly wanted. John and Mary are on their way to their honeymoon, and John is just looking at his beautiful bride, just thinking, man, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. And then he notices something. Hey, baby, why you got that yellow ribbon around your neck? Oh, John, we just had this incredible wedding. Everything went off to plan. It was a moment that we'll remember for the rest of our lives. I'll tell you about this yellow ribbon some other time. Time passed. They had kids, successful careers, lots of traveling, paid all their bills. They had lives of fulfillment, purpose, everything life hopefully is. But it was time for them to part. And so John was sitting by Mary's bedside. She's breathing weakly, and he knows the time is near. He's holding her hand, and he's just thinking about all the memories, all the pictures that they created in his mind. And the tears starts to run down his face. He stares at Mary, who doesn't have her eyes closed, and he says, I loved you before I even knew what love was. And I know you gotta go. And before you go, I have to ask, why do you wear that yellow ribbon around your neck? And it's like as if, as soon as he asked that question, like Mary just like weakly opens her eyes and turns her head to John and says, from the moment I met you, I knew I was going to spend the rest of my life with you. And because I love you, I'm going to untie this ribbon from around my neck. And so Mary untied the ribbon from around her neck. And her head fell off.
What?
Thank you for giving me the reaction that I typically get when I tell this story. Now, dig this. I told that story at 10 years old. Why did I tell that very shocking story at 10 years old? She's why. At the same university that I now teach, there's a radio station, WEAA, Morgan State University. And this woman had a radio show for 25 years called The Griot for the Young and Young at Heart. My mother, my sister, and I would listen to that radio show Saturday mornings as we were going to rehearsals. And I learned and heard so many stories that came from her mouth. One of those stories was the yellow ribbon, and that was the only one that stuck. I guess I have a sixth sense of humor. And at the National Great Blacks and Wax Museum in Baltimore, founded by my godparents, the late Dr. Elmer Martin and Dr. Joanne Martin of Yulee, Florida, I had the audacity to tell that story in the presence of Mary Carter Smith. It was an impromptu talent show. I was jealous of this other kid. I don't like people stealing my shine, so I had to show him up. And for whatever reason, in my 10-year-old mind, the best way to show this kid up was to tell that story. It worked. Mary Carter Smith was so impressed by my rendition that she mentioned me on her radio show, and she told the story again. She eventually reached out to my family and asked, could I go on the radio show and read stories with her? That house that you see in the background, I would stay there after we left the radio station and just experience. Mary Carter Smith was a giant in Black storytelling. Let me put it like this. Let's say you can learn baseball from Babe Ruth, or Shohei Ohtani, or Mike Trout. Let's say you can learn football from Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Big Trust. Let's say you can learn from the brightest minds in whatever you're interested in. That's who she was, and that's who I learned from. And the only reason I learned from her in the manner that I did is because she cared. I had nothing to offer her but me. I had nothing to offer her but an appreciation for the stories that she told. And she gave me everything. I look at this picture all the time. And every time I start thinking about that woman, every time. And I am not the most emotional person. The people who can warrant this are very few. But the impact of that person on my life brings tears of sorrow because I miss her, but tears of utmost appreciation. We have people like that in our lives. Just the mere thought of them brings back so much. She passed away in 2007. I was 20. I've lived an additional 15 years since her. It's as if she's still here. She gave me the gift of storytelling because she cared. I give you the gift of storytelling because I care. I'm a researcher because of them. And I gotta give love to the state of Florida, because as I really thought about the journey, if it wasn't for the fact that I got an email at the right time about a research program over the summer in Miami, I wouldn't have given two craps about research. But at 21 years old, seeing that potential opportunity to be away from everybody for 6 to 8 weeks in Miami, I just turned 21? Yeah. So I was willing to give it a shot. And I had to think about all the classes that I did well in. I'm trying to give y'all some lessons of wisdom. Think about the classes that you do well in. Make sure the teacher knows who you are. You sit in the front. Because when you have a big space like this, I'm telling you from experience, the teachers don't necessarily teach all the people on the way in the back. They teach the front row. As a performer, you got to connect with somebody. It's hard to connect with every single person in this room, but it's very easy to connect with all of you. It's not because I don't love y'all. It's just a matter of fact. So because I learned that lesson very early on, Dr. Yamalis Diaz remembered who I was. So when I asked for a letter of recommendation, first and foremost, she remembered my face. How could you not? And the fact that I did well in her developmental psychology course. And she said, okay, I'll give you the letter of recommendation so you can try to, spend 8 weeks in Miami doing research. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to also consider this research program in New Brunswick, New Jersey, at Rutgers University, called Project Learn. And I said, okay. And that's where I met this guy, Dr. Andrew Peterson, in the Department of Social Work. And for the first time in my life, I saw myself in research, and it came from the big white guy from the Midwest. How about that? But I did. I saw myself in the research of tobacco outlet density, drug epidemiology. But yet I could see my story. And that began the journey that I ultimately took to public health research and eventually storytelling. And that's a story in itself. But let me tell you why storytelling. Hopefully I've made, if the tears didn't work, hopefully this will. The first step in the acquisition of wisdom is silence. The second, listening. The third, memory. The fourth, practice. The fifth, teaching others. There are very few things that feel like they're universal. Very few statements that I can say where I'm 100% sure that every single human that is occupying this planet right now would be applicable to. You are all storytellers. It's a matter of fact. Storytelling is a universal art form and a universal science. How many of you have a cell phone? How many of you are on your cell phone right now? Liars! Now, I appreciate you paying attention. No matter how you communicate, whether it's with technology, whether it's with your voice, whether it's with your eyes. You don't know what I mean? Watch Zoolander. You know what I mean? All right, y'all got the reference. Storytelling. We are communicating something. Consciously and unconsciously, we are communicating something. But there's power in voice. There's power in voice. And I don't just mean physical voice, but I mean figurative voice, metaphorical voice. When you get to share your truth, there's something powerful about that. Especially when the truth is ugly, especially when the truth is suppressed, especially when the truth is oppressed. There's something about getting things off your chest, saying things like it is. Being unapologetic about the words that come out of your mouth, but most importantly, the words that come out of your mind. There's power in your voice, and that's what storytelling brings. And just as powerful as the acknowledgement of the story, listening. Listening is acknowledgement. So I don't mean just hearing. That's a physical thing. You do that whether you want to or not. Listening is intentional. You choose to listen to someone because you're internalizing their message. So as important as storytelling is, story listening is just as important. They intertwine. Ultimately, it leads to a mutually beneficial exchange. Do you think I'm lying to you? It's okay, challenge me. What happens when you listen to someone's story? What happens when you tell your story to that same person? You both grow. There are so many scenarios in this world where all a person is looking for is the opportunity to tell their story. Let's just start there. Just truly listen to what I have to say. Before you move to judgment, right? Before you move to action, persecution, policy, just listen to what I have to say. We all benefit when we give people space to tell their story and when we have space to share ours. What makes a story a story? Every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It just blows my mind that I actually teach classes about this stuff. It really does. And I'll tell you why. Because in all honesty, and I don't mind being honest with y'all, I can teach this stuff in like 30 minutes. And they make me teach it over a whole semester. You know how hard that is sometimes? And the beauty of it is in the simplicity. Storytelling is simple, it's straightforward, and a lot of it is intuitive. When you think about the plot is how we navigate from beginning to middle to end. Think about the stops on a train, and think about the train tracks. Beginning, middle, end, plot is how you navigate. The critical elements include the title, the characters, the sceneries, the challenges, and the resolutions. I like this part because I hope what's swirling around in your heads is how your own narratives fit within this paradigm. So if it's your story, then who's the character? I'm not trying to trick you. I'm not trying to trick you, right? Now, maybe I ain't trying to trick you with this one. What part of the story are you in right now? Okay.
All three.
Why?
Because it depends on when you start the story.
It depends on the story. It's very easy to go to the life story, chronology, right? Very easy to go there. But think about the story of Wednesday, right? October 12th, 2022. And it's currently 4:37 Eastern. Sounds like we're almost close to the end. It depends on the story. But the structure is always the same. Beginning, middle, end. The 3 R's of storytelling: reason, responsibility, and respect. Now, what do I mean by that? Here's what I mean. Reason, the story should make sense. If it doesn't make sense, what are we doing? People should be able to understand what you are trying to convey, and it's your responsibility to do that. Sometimes that means you have to break it down to the smallest increment, if that's what's necessary. Sometimes it can live at the 50,000